Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi's Live Healthy, Be Healthy. I'm Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pash Road. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. You are welcome to call in and ask any questions regarding today's topic of health or anything else that you may want to ask the doctors. Remember back in, I'm aging myself, and you too. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, that commercial that was on, do you have iron poor, tired blood?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Remember who it was for?
Geritol.
What's
Geritol
funny
commercial.
is people still listen to that.
Really?
Yes,
or it's
people
still-
come in that are taking iron. Oh, it's always older people, probably because of that commercial.
Yeah.
They were fatigued and tired, and that commercial says, well, if that happens, you take Geritol. And people to this day listen to that, and we find a lot of people.
We always wonder, well, I don't know
Yep.
if I do or not. I'm tired.
And we
Is
see
that lack
so
of
many
iron?
people that are taking iron that shouldn't,
Yeah.
and they actually have problems because they're having too much iron due to listening to that commercial that many years ago.
Really?
It
Well,
really did. That
kinda-
commercial did work, though.
Yeah.
So kind of let you know, today we are talking about iron
Yes.
in our systems, and how much is too much and how much is not enough.
Yeah, too
And-
little, too much, and just right.
Exactly. And and what are some of the symptoms of not having enough iron or having too much iron?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, I mean, Geritol was right. If you get very fatigued if you don't have enough. There's no doubt about it. Of course, fatigue. I mean, if you go to Google, type in fatigue, 300 or 400 things are going to come up. So iron had to come up in there somewhere.
Right.
But it's not something that I think the point that Janine and I wanted to make sure today was to find if you're tired, there has to be a reason. Yes, you may need iron, but you have to
And
check it first.
Even though we list these symptoms that are iron deficiency, don't take iron without having it checked,
Right.
because we're going to talk a minute about having too much iron, and that can be just as detrimental.
Well, is
Now,
it true that if you have too much iron, you get this metallic taste
You
in your mouth?
can, you
Some
can,
people
but that's
will.
not the
Yeah.
main thing we see.
Okay.
But too little iron, what we see, most common, fatigue, restless leg syndrome. A lot of people don't realize restless leg syndrome, one of the main reasons for it is an iron deficiency. Not always, you can't say 100% of the time, but it is one of the reasons you have it. Hair loss. You can actually have hair loss from iron
Boy,
deficiency
you are
or
iron
iron
deficient.
overload. Right, exactly. See, but you don't go run out and take iron because of that.
Exactly.
Really, cramping in the pain in the legs from the knees down, and a lot of times you don't see that listed, but I hear that every day from people that are iron deficient. When we
So
check
your
them, they're iron
calves are
deficient.
really hurting you all the time.
Well, it's just an ache from usually
yeah.
from the knees down. And of course, your main group that has an iron deficiency is your women having cycles. Kids can be iron deficient as well while they're growing, but again, iron can be very toxic, so you don't just give your kid extra iron unless you have it checked and you know that they need it.
Yeah.
Other symptoms, one weird thing, if you're doing this, you definitely want to have your iron checked, and that is chewing ice.
Oh yes.
Chewing ice, if anybody ever comes into me and says, I can't get enough ice and I am chewing ice all day long and my dentist is telling me I'm ruining my teeth, they're iron deficient almost always. It's weird how an iron deficiency makes you chew ice, but not everybody with an iron deficiency chews ice. But almost everybody that's an ice chewer has an iron deficiency.
Well, so those of you that are out there saying, oh, I love to go to such and such a restaurant or fast food place because they've got the best ice and I can just chew it all day long.
You got to get your iron checked.
Might want to get it checked.
Yeah.
Now, some big symptoms also that I want to mention just so people know it is memory loss. When you're iron deficient, memory loss, because you really don't have the oxygen that you need. And so you do start having things,
Yeah, the brain's running on low.
depression, big symptom of iron deficiency. So when you have all those symptoms, sometimes that's why we say iron is something easy to check. So it's very simple to see if you need iron or not. And we don't just check a CBC.
No, I mean routinely, that's if you go to, especially nowadays with insurance the way it is, you go into your doc, complain of fatigue, they do a CBC, which is going to check your red count and white count. And it's checking the hemoglobin and hematocrit. Your hemoglobin and hematocrit may be okay, but as far as being in range, but you can be low in iron.
You can still be low in iron. And there's some research that came out that says really you need to check more. We usually like to check, we have an anemia panel that actually does check your B12, your folate, your iron panel, which will tell your saturation, how much iron is in your blood, and then your ferritin, which is your stored iron. So it actually does a lot more things to look for iron problems, whether it's too much or too little. It's the same testing.
Yeah.
But it really is iron. So many people are confused about iron, which is why we did the show. I have constant people. We'll find on somebody they need iron. They're iron deficient. Oh, I'm scared to take iron. Why are you scared of iron? Well, they keep saying iron's bad. Well, iron's only bad if you get enough, and there's no doubt it can be bad. But if you need it, there's nothing that's going to replace it other than iron.
It's like water. Water can be bad if you
drink too much. People.
Sure.
And iron's the same way. But it's one of those things. And what I always try to explain to people, is iron is. I mean, if you think about it, rust is called iron oxide. Okay, so that's what rust is. So if you get too much, iron in your system and you start building up too much, you're going to consume a lot of your body's antioxidants trying to maintain some semblance of order. Whereas, if you got the right amount and then you take in your antioxidants and your foods and so on, you should be fine. But you need to have it checked. I can't stress it enough. I go back to my same old analogy. You don't just go out there, raise the hood on your car, and start pouring oil in it without checking it.
All right, we got a caller on the line with a question for us. Good morning. What's your question for the doctors?
Good morning. My question is, my husband, he is beginning the memory loss.
Okay.
And it's a phase that he's going through where, like, 1 week he's in a real calm mood. The next week it is an angry mood. Then it goes to a phase that he's lost for like 2 or 3 days. He doesn't know anything or anyone. Then he goes into a phase the next couple of days of crying. And then the next couple of days, he's mellowing out. And he's 61 years old. And I've had him checked. Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of nutrients you want to look at. B12 is a huge one.
Yeah.
Look at his folate level. His possibility he's got a methylation issue.
That anemia panel would be a good test to do because it does check for the B12, the folate, the ferritin, and the iron. Too much iron can also cause memory problems. So you really want to check and see. But another thing is homocysteine.
Right.
And homocysteine can definitely make brain changes. But another thing you think of then, on the other hand, is hormonal. So you also want to check testosterone.
Could be any of the above.
Yeah, so we have, if you come by, we have panels that actually check all that.
Right.
But you really want to find out an underlying problem, and you don't want to wait until it goes farther and farther.
I understand. We're at a phase.
And he's way too young.
Yeah, that's way too young to be doing that.
Well, we're at a phase. Friday night he lost everything. Saturday he doesn't know anything. He's lost 3 weeks. He told me today. He's lost 3 weeks, and he woke up today, and he didn't realize we've been living where we live.
Well, if it's getting that, have you been anywhere to actually have anything checked yet?
I took him to a doctor, and the first thing they want to do is put him on dementia medicine.
Right, but to me,
and I feel he needs a panel check to make sure that there could be an underlying vitamin deficiency.
And also
because he lost 13 pounds in a month.
Yeah,
he's down.
And actually, thyroid can do it.
So it can.
And even problems in the brain can do it. So there's so many things that it can be.
What you start out with is to rule out all the metabolic stuff. The vitamins. The various things there. Make sure the thyroid functioning and so on is doing good. And then one of the other things I'm going to suggest is somebody needs to do an MRI on his brain. Let's see what is going on in there.
Now that, because of the expense, we would suggest you asking your doctor to do that. But for the blood work, the insurance companies won't usually do the full screening. So come to us and we do it as inexpensive as you'll find it. So, but that you need to do as soon as possible.
Today.
Yep.
I totally agree. I thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Evelyn's on hold. We'll be right back to talk to you right after this break. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi's Live Healthy, Be Healthy. Jim Tabor along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition on Cowan Road in Gulfport. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Evelyn from Gulfport, thank you so much for holding. What's your question for the doctors this morning?
I went and had my blood work done on the 7th of August. And I came out pretty good. The triglycerides were a little high, so I'm working on it.
Okay, good.
And I talked to your other doctor in there, and he put me on omega-3, EPA, DHA, high-yield fish oil.
Right.
And it's not agreeing with my stomach. I've been taking it 2 weeks, and I'm sick to my stomach every day, so I quit.
Okay.
And so my husband started taking it a few days, and it's doing the same thing to him. What
Now,
should we do? What should I do? Or
All right,
what?
first question, Evelyn, is are you taking it just before you start eating?
With meals.
But just before you start eating?
Yes.
'Cause we always
Okay.
say make sure you eat on top of it, because with
Yeah.
any fish oil, now our fish oil don't tend to hurt the stomach as much as
No.
most, but occasionally you find somebody that does. And I myself am one that can't take any fish oil no matter what, so I understand.
I eat it by the handful,
So
so it
and
doesn't
he
matter.
takes it by the handful, so it just depends on the person. There is an alternative, which
There
is
is.
krill. And we do have krill oil, which is what I take, because for people with the sensitive stomachs, now one thing a lot of people do, and it does help, is putting it in the freezer.
Yes. Now, that is another thing you
Freeze
might
the fish
try.
oil, and by the time it actually thaws out and starts releasing, it's a little bit farther from the stomach. And so honestly, we do have a lot of people that say that that makes a big difference.
Oh, the regular fish oil
Yeah.
that I have?
Yeah,
The
the
one
one
you
you
have.
have. Try
Just
that
put it in the
first,
freezer.
since you already have it. But the fish oil or krill is the best thing you can do for triglycerides other than changing your diet.
And I'm sure Dr. Bull told you
I'm sure
to do
Dr. Bull
that.
told you to change your diet.
Yeah.
So,
I,
but-
what I was doing was drinking too much Arizona tea.
Okay, that'll do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, put it in the freezer, try that. If that doesn't work, then maybe switch to krill.
Yeah, we'll find you something.
Yeah.
then.
Okay, what do you have something for cramps in your hands and fingers?
We
that-
do.
We do.
You do.
We do. We have a couple formulas. One is our DN Mega Minerals. A lot of times if you just do a multi-mineral, it makes a big difference in cramping, and most people that will do it. We even
Most.
have one called Muscle Cramp and Tension Formula that also has some relaxants, and we usually don't suggest that one unless it's just at night, because you don't
Yeah,
want to take
okay.
that one during the day, because of course it makes you a little bit
Makes you a
sleepy.
little drowsy, yeah.
So there's both of those, and they actually work really good.
Oh, okay, because I have to be careful. I have kidney disease, so I can't
You
take
do
the
have to,
kidney
well then
You
we
do.
got to be careful with minerals even in you. So we'd
Gotta
have
watch
to maybe,
that.
in your case, take another look at your lab work and see where your we might do just straight potassium, but I'd look at your lab work again before I would tell you that.
Okay,
Because-
thanks, guys. That's
okay.
a big
Okay.
help.
Oh, thank you.
Evelyn.
All right, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Those are the lines to call if you have a question regarding anything regarding your health or about today's topic, which we're talking about iron.
Right.
What is what is good for you, what's too much, too little,
Well,
the
let's
effects
talk a
that
little
can
bit
have.
about iron overload, which we
Yeah,
find,
that's-
which
we
we
do
find
see
a
that,
lot.
yeah.
And in most people, the people that we find that in most are men and women after menopause. And there is a genetic mutation called hemochromatosis that can actually make you have iron overload. And there's even some conditions that you have iron overload and it's not hemochromatosis.
not genetic, right.
But the way we check it is, again, just like we talked about, doing a CBC if hemoglobin and hematocrit on the high end instead of the low end as opposed to deficiency, and checking your ferritin, which is your stored iron. Now, the bad thing is when you have high stored iron, you can affect the liver, the heart a lot. It can actually increase heart attacks. It can actually make confusion. It can make hair loss. It can make some of the same problems and fatigue. And we find more
I saw
men.
that.
We find more men with too much iron. And the treatment for too much iron is pretty easy. You give blood. That's why they've always suggested men give blood anyway, because it's actually good for the heart to give blood. Because women have years
Yeah.
of bleeding, men do not.
And actually, the study shows that men who regularly donate blood have like a 30% less risk for cardiovascular disease, which is pretty good.
Right. Now, when it's a severe problem, a lot of times you have to have blood taken more than what they allow to give. So a lot of those people we will send to a hematologist. So, and they actually just take blood out as much as they need to. So there's definitely an easy fix, but it can actually be fatal to have too much iron.
It really can,
And it
it's-
really can.
Like I said, most of the time it's in men, although
do
we
see
do see
women
we do
after
see a
menopause.
few, yeah, and usually it's because the lady has been taking this iron supplement, her
Or-
whole life,
yeah.
and next thing you
Or
know,
we see iron overload from people taking too much iron.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, you should not be taking iron, stop.
Yeah.
And that is why they have it.
All right, we've got a caller from Ocean Springs with a question. Good morning. What's your question for the doctors?
Yes, I was calling to see what do you supposed to do when somebody has high cholesterol? What kind of pills are you supposed to take for that?
Okay, we do have something, and we always look at the ratios as well
Yeah.
to see, what
We
is the
were just talking
ratio,
about
how
that.
high is it exactly. But we do have something called
yeah, off
Coleast,
camera.
and the
Yeah.
Coleast works really good. Now, if the VLDLs are high, which is one of the cholesterol molecules, and the triglycerides are high with it, we'll use fish oil along with it, just like the caller before had mentioned.
Diet modification.
Right, and just depends on what it looks like. So if you have a copy of your lab work, you can always bring it in. There's no charge to look at it for you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Angie from Gaucher on the phone with us now. Good morning, Angie. What's your question for the doctors?
Good morning.
Morning.
My question is, I have all the symptoms of having something wrong with my thyroid, but every time they test it, it's all in the what they call the normal zone. Is there a level of normal that's different for other people? I mean, is it always the same? Or?
Well, here's the thing, Angie. I mean, depending on what test they're doing. I mean, if they're just, you know, a lot of times when you go in and say, hey, doc, you know, something's wrong, check my thyroid, they're just going to check the TSH, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone. It's actually your brain. It's not your thyroid. It's the brain telling the thyroid what to do. And the brain may be kind of, let's phase it, you know, it's probably not doing enough. So there's this possibility that you need to look much deeper into, you know, how that is working. You know, maybe you have something, even an autoimmune problem like Hashimoto's. There's all sorts of things you can look at for that thyroid. And it could also be the adrenal function at the same time. So you want to look at several things. This is where we get into, when you've got a symptom like that, you really have to do some digging. You can't just take one test, oh, you're fine.
Even when we see people have had more than a TSH, it's usually just a T4.
Yeah.
And T4 is the predominant hormone that your thyroid produces.
Right.
But then it turns into what they call T3, and T3 is your usable thyroid. And if for some reason it's not converting properly, we rarely see most doctors check the free T3, which we do always, and that's where we find a lot of problems. The TSH can be perfect, the T4 can be perfect, but the free T3, if it's low, you still don't have enough usable thyroid. And we do have something for that. So, I mean, it does make a huge difference, and we find that one a lot. So, and even when you do check those ranges, you asked, is there a different normal? We do use a different normal. Over the years, normals on thyroids keep changing, and the normals are for a sample of the population. And a big part of the population has a thyroid problem. And because of the endocrine problems that's caused by the chemicals in our environment, it skews the range in what we think. You know, so we do see a lot of people, we use a more narrow range to see if people have a thyroid problem.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
so Angie, you can bring in what they've already done on you, and we'll take a look at it. But my guess is we're probably going to need more to be able to tell, but we'll definitely look and see.
All right. Thank you, Angie. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. We'll take a break. Be back with this week's special. And welcome back to our show. It's our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi's Live Healthy, Be Health. This is our final segment for the morning. So our phone lines are open to you, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. So what is this week's special?
Iron.
Well,
Imagine that.
Imagine that, right?
There's Iron Response and there's OptiFE Plus. Now, I'll tell you the difference. Most iron out there, ferrous sulfate, is very unabsorbable. Our OptiFE is what they call a chelated iron because it's chelated with glycine. And so it's a bisglycinate, which makes it much easier on the stomach, much less constipating, and much better absorbable. Now, another Iron Response is a food-based iron. So it is, again, doesn't hurt the stomach as much, doesn't cause as much constipation, much more absorbable. So when we have people come in and say, well, I'm iron deficient, but I cannot take iron, most of the time, people can take these.
One of those two, and you know, we'll start with that OptiFE because it's probably one of the,
it's less expensive.
It's less expensive, and it also has your B12 and your methylfolate. It's got the methylated folate
now,
and B12.
I've had people though that come
SMC.
in and they say I cannot absorb iron. No, I've taken all kind. I put some of those people on the Iron Response. Within a week or two, their iron's up, and they were told they had to have iron infusions and everything else because they couldn't absorb iron. So we have very, very absorbable iron that doesn't make you as sick.
Now, one thing, something we've talked about, absorbing iron. We get a lot of people who are iron deficient, and when we talk to them about their diet, because we always do that, we find that they drink a lot of tea.
Right.
Now, if you drink tea with your meals, the tannins in there actually inhibit the absorption of iron.
Dark tea, and we always tell people that's iron deficient, do not drink tea with your meals, and people that have too much iron drink tea with their meals.
Wow. All right. Charles from Gulfport on the phone with a question. Good morning, Charles. What's your question for the doctors?
Yes, I want to ask the doctor. I'm finna have an MRI, and back in 2003, I had a neck surgery did, and I had a fusion put in my neck. And I know when you get in the MRI, they have a high power magnet in there. Would that affect me if I got in there?
You know, the thing to do with that is talk to the radiology group there when you get ready to go in. They can also do a CT scan or something like that. So, you know, and I think if you're depending on, most of the time they use the non-ferrous, which is going to be your stainlesses, nickel, and so on like that. They don't tend to react quite as bad.
But you just want to ask them. You want to make sure you tell them that you've had that done, and they can tell you. And sometimes changing the settings on the MRI make it safe as well. So that's more a question probably for the radiologist, like you said, radiologists where they're doing it.
Yeah, just make sure that they're aware that you've had that issue. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much for your call. Diane from Ocean Springs on the phone. Good morning, Diane. What's your question for the doctors?
Good morning. First of all, I want you to know how much I appreciate your show.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's so helpful. When I go for my thyroid test, for the A1C test, they did not require me to fast. I go after I've eaten and taken my thyroid pill. Should I be fasting?
Not for those tests.
Accurate test?
Nope, not for thyroid and not for A1C. Neither one of those are a fasting test, so that's actually okay.
Okay, thank you much.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome, Diane.
Another thing I did want to mention, though, just a minute ago when you were talking about absorption of iron, and I think it was important to let people know, a lot of the people that we find that have low iron also are on acid reducers.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a big risk factor on iron deficiency. PPIs, which are the proton pump inhibitors, which is what a lot of people take out there for acid reflux, keeps the body from absorbing iron, and so you can actually cause a deficiency.
And so does taking huge amounts of calcium.
Right, calcium also competes with iron for absorption, and when you do have an iron deficiency, you never want to take your iron with calcium. So we just wanted to get those facts out there because, you know, it's important things that if you do have a problem, you want to know how you can actually help it.
Exactly.
And then other drugs that you never want to take iron, if you are taking iron, with Synthroid. Iron keeps the Synthroid from absorbing. So you just always have to know kind of when to take stuff.
Something, isn't there?
Yeah,
exactly. I'm just sitting
always
here,
something.
you know, crap. I mean, the older that we get, the more that we have to be, you know, concerned about, you know, well, can I take this with this, with this, with this?
But exactly. We get those questions a lot. We have people call us home
that's
and say, I'm taking this, can I take this? You know, so that's kind of, there's so much out there. It's hard to
Well, that's why it's
keep
good
it all
for you to,
straight.
you know, to take your, you know, if you're going to go in for a consult, which is free with the doctors, bring your latest blood work with you, and also a list of your prescriptions that you're taking. So, you know, that way, you know, if they suggest something for you to take, that you're not, it's not going to, you know, interfere with something that you're already taking.
Yeah.
I mean,
or you may take it at a different time of the day, or you know, that's
Yeah.
the kind of things you got to look at. Because sometimes, you know, you can actually, it's not to say you can't take iron and calcium, but you just can't take them together. But you can take them at different times of the day. So that's why, you know, we always look at that and try to, now a multivitamin is going to always have them together, and in nature, you're going to have some together. So it's hard to make a perfect, in a perfect world, yes, you could take everything separate.
Got another caller real quick. James is on the phone with us. Good morning, James. What's your question for the doctor?
Good morning. I appreciate y'all being there.
Well, thank you.
I have a situation, not me, but my wife, she has no medical insurance. She had a radical mastectomy and a hysterectomy.
Okay.
And my question is there any over-the-counter hormones that she can take since her cancer was hormone-based and she has such a terrible time with everything related to not having
hormones?
Actually, I would not actually take anything that's hormonal, even the natural stuff, because of course she had a hormonal cancer. But she can actually take some of the stuff that helps hot flashes and that mimics it to make your body think that it has it, or even something like 5-HTP, which helps the symptoms without giving hormonal, or DIM, which DIM actually is a cancer prevention. So if you give us a call, the show's ending right now, but we'll give you more information.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Join us next week. We're talking about macronutrients on our Monday morning edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi's Live Healthy, Be Healthy. Have a